Good day, everyone. Since day one, we are talking about communication, how it affects the life of the people, how they express themselves, and how they try to ask for their need. In communication, we discussed that there are verbal and nonverbal communication that highly affect effective communication. Now is the time for us to apply or to execute those knowledge of communication into a speech. The lesson for today is pen to podium, analyzing the language and structure of speeches as part of effective communication. To start with, a spoken text can range from engaging narratives of a seasoned storyteller to string speeches of visionary leaders in history, right up to the gripping current podcast interviews that unravels the depth of the human experience. We people, it is our nature that we love telling stories. And at the same time, we love listening to stories because we can relate on it. In the realm of spoken communication, language holds the extraordinary power to persuade, to inform, and to entertain. Those are the very basic reason why we are communicating. But effective speeches not only capture our attention, but also mold our feelings, attitude, thoughts, and behavior into a profound ways. And today, it is a reminder for us that speakers to effectively convey their ideas and influence their audience need to shape the language, the structure, and the content to suit specific context, purpose, and the audience. Whenever you are crafting a message, there are things that you have to consider, not just the content on what you're going to say, but also what is your purpose. Earlier, it was said that it's either to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. And the next thing is who are your audience. So you can vary the speech depending on the length, depending on the speed, depending on the language, and depending on their level of understanding. By analyzing effective speeches, we can enrich our understanding of spoken word and equip ourselves with the skills to interpret and respond to these various texts and identify the underlying messages and emotions and rhetorical strategies that use to achieve their purpose. Here are the type of speeches that you have to prepare yourselves. Why? Because different occasion calls for different speeches. Again, we would like to emphasize that there is a need for you to consider your context, your purpose, your audience that can help us understand how speaker has crafted the content, language, structure, and delivery to achieve the desired effect. We can generally break speeches down on the following categories. A speech according to a purpose. A speaker creates a speech based on the purpose he or she wants to achieve, and this purpose is called goals of speech. Now, the purpose of the speech are studied in order to deepen the knowledge and learn how to apply them in one speech. First, we have the very useful purpose of the speech, the exploratory or informative. It aims to educate and to inform audience about specific topic, concept, or issue. They focus on providing factual information, explanation, and insight, often use clear, straightforward language to enhance the audience understanding about something but not yet clearly understood. For example, nowadays it's very prevalent that we have different catastrophic event, namely typhoon, namely landslide, earthquake, volcanic eruption. Now, this will allow audience or people to be informed of what's going on with our environment, for them to prepare and for them to know what are the very reason behind it. Next in line is persuasive. Persuasive speech calls for an audience to adapt or a particular viewpoint, support a specific course or action to change their beliefs and behavior. So your goal is to convince them to take your side. These speeches utilize rhetorical devices. It calls for emotional appeal, logical reasoning to convince the audience of the speaker's perspective and encourage them to take a specific action or stance on a topic. For example, you can start by telling a very alarming event. For example, is the typhoon. So when we speak of typhoon, what triggers it definitely will be the substandard project when it comes to flood. Another one will be our human negligence when it comes to how we throw our garbage. Another reason would be the uncontrollable events, the divinity. When it comes to, natural calamities, definitely we cannot control. But we can prepare by persuading and convincing people to evacuate, to prepare the needs such as medicine, such as water, such as food, such as clothing. Another one will be special occasion speeches. And when was that? Whenever we have commemoration, celebration, or marking of significant event or occasion. For example, we can have a wedding, a funeral, an award ceremonies, inaugural address, and often includes elements of inspiration, reflection, acknowledgement of significance occasion. Now, let's not go far. Whenever someone celebrated his or her birthday, we are asked to give a message. So that calls for a speech as a celebration. So it will always depend on the context. Now, a demonstrative speeches that aims to explain the process set activity of instruction to the audience. These speeches involve step-by-step guidance, practical demonstration, or visual aids to help audience understand and replicate the demonstrated process or activity effectively. So here comes if you want to learn how to cook, the best way for you to watch is a demonstrative cooking. Or vice versa, if you want to teach people on a certain thing, for example, how to use gadget, how to sell, how to study hard, it should be in step-by-step process, explanation, demonstrating what happened for each phasing. And a motivational speeches. It calls for inspiring, uplifting, and encouraging the audience to achieve personal growth, success, or positive change. They focus on storytelling, emotional appeals, and use of powerful language to instill a motivation, boost morale, foster a sense of determination and empowerment among the listener. So this is very common when you're attending a seminar, when they try to inspire you to become successful like them. Or it can be a valedictorian speech, a motivational speech for the graduates to celebrate and to be inspired with their life story. Next is speech according to the delivery. Number one, impromptu speaking. This is where you don't have any preparation. You have to answer right away the question or you have to speak spontaneously. For example, during recitation, your teacher asks you for something and you have to answer right away. You are not preparing for anything, but you definitely needs to answer. That's impromptu. Its counterpart with little preparation, a conversational manner using brief notes, a rehearsed one, is extemporaneous speeching. So you can see the difference of the two: impromptu, no preparation, extemporation, or extemporaneous speech, there's a preparation. Now, on the other hand, when it comes to delivery, if you have your prepared speech, and you read it word by word based on how it is written, we call it as manuscript speaking. So this is common during SONA, wherein the president will try to discuss the details of his accomplishment by reading in a manuscript. Now, the rote recitation of a written message that the speaker has committed to a memory. Everything should be memorized word by word. You also practice the punctuation. We call it as memorize speaking. Again, the speech according to the delivery are impromptu, extemporaneous, manuscript, and memorize speaking. Now, let's talk about speech style. This refers to the distinct way of communicating. It consists of particular pattern of linguistic, vocal, and nonverbal behaviors, speech styles that refers primarily to the manner one communicates than the meaning of the communication. So, how do you really talk depending on your relationship to the ones you're talking to? Let's hear from intimate. So for intimate, it is expected that you have a really close relationship. This is very common between partners, between family members, best friend, because it is the style among the intimate members of the family or friends that do not need a complete language with clear articulation. It also about how you talk to your pet, which you're very sweet, you're very close. And the next one is casual. It is the most common speech style used among friends and coworker. You have to use jargon, slang, or vernacular language are used. So this is how you chat, you talk to your classmate. It's not very formal. It's just a casual manner of conversation. Next is consultative. Consultative is where we have standard one, the best used for business and professional relationship. For example, by the word itself, consultative, you are consulting for something. A doctor and a patient, a teacher and a student, a guidance counselor and a student who's asking for advice. What else can we have? A lawyer towards his client. That's consultative. Now, formal. This is where, unlike in consultative, this is one way because most of the time you are the ones delivering the message in a very formal, grammatical manner. And lastly, frozen. By the word itself, it froze, it freeze, it's not moving, it's static. Because all you have to do here is to recite. This is very common with court proceedings, religious rituals, just like how we pray the rosary, how we recite during the flag ceremony. So again, in Frozen, you're not changing, you are going to follow it as it is. Now, the language features refers to the written elements and techniques that writers use to enhance meaning, style, tone, and overall effectiveness of the speech. Most speeches will use a mix of persuasive and informative language features, but this will vary depending on the context purpose of the audience. Let's see. When you want to persuade, you have to incorporate it with evidences to support your idea, to support your justification. The first that you can use are facts and statistics. These are verifiable information that provides numerical data to support a claim or an argument. For example, according to the research, 85% of the students reported improved academic performance after using this study method. So what's the numerical data? The 85%. And what's the fact? This is according to a research which is objective that follows scientific process. Next, you can also use expert opinion. These are views or judgment provided by individual considered with authorities and specialties with their field. Example, renowned economist Dr. Tran asserts that the proposed policy changes will significantly boost the national economy. Why? He is authorized to talk about something with national economy because he himself is an economist. Now, next in line would be personal anecdote. So you will find it a bit subjective, but this can also talks about personal story or account used to illustrate point or add human touch to the argument. And when it calls for oral speeches, public speaking, these are the things that lighten the mood, that connects the speaker to the audience. Example, I started a recycling program with my local community and it was a huge success. So the audience will ask, wow, this is very inspiring. How come it is a success? I want to follow his or her footstep. So see, we love listening to stories because we can relate with it and we are inspired and we are curious what happened during the process of achieving success. And of course, you can add figurative language. Figures of speech such as similes, metaphors, and personification create vivid imagery. Her voice was music to her ears. So, what do we compare here? This is an example of metaphor wherein voice is compared to a music to his ears. And we can also use tricolon, the use of three parallel phrases or clauses for emphasis and rhythm. The calling of the kangaroo is cruel, wasteful, and disgrace to our nation. This is a very strong statement when you include three claims. The culling of the kangaroo is cruel, wasteful, disgrace. Okay, take note, it must be tricolon, three examples to make it powerful. Next, the repetition. Why do we repeat words and phrases? Simply because we want to emphasize and reinforce. We must act, we must stand, and we must prevail in the face of adversity. The word we must is a call to action, that we are inviting everyone to do something, which is an obligatory. Okay, now how about jargon? Jargon or specialized terminology used of particular field or group used as an established credibility and authority. The defendant has pleaded guilty of the three counts and aggravated assaults. So if we're going to read it, definitely not everyone can relate. But simply because it is part of a legal jargon that we use in court, that we use in legal proceedings. And we also have formal language. A formal language is a polished and personal language that makes the writer sound more educated and professional. It uses data that suggests correlation between these variables. Next, direct address. In the direct address, this is with the use of a pronoun you to speak directly to the audience, involving them in your speech or an argument. The you attitude. You have the power to make a difference. So see here that you are focusing on them, not with yourself, not both of you, but the audience. You are commanding them. Next, we have rhetorical questions. So why it is rhetorical? Because it poses an effect to stimulate thought, but there's no need to answer. That's why it is rhetorical question. You throw a question, but not to be answered by the audience, but you yourself. Isn't it time we took a stand for what we believe in? So that post question will raise curiosity, will raise reflection, but at the end of the day, you are the one who's going to answer. Then, we also have emotive language, a language that intend to evoke strong feelings and emotion, reaction in the audience. The heart-wrenched images of suffering compel us to take immediate action. So see, it touches your emotion. It creates a disturbance so you can relate with the context. And inclusive language. Since earlier we talked about intercultural communication, there should always be inclusivity by using the phrases we, us, are to create a sense of belonging and shared responsibility. Together, we build a better future for our children. So it is not I can build, you can build, but we that is inclusive. There is also the use of high modality. It is the language that expresses strong certainty and confidence in the presented argument. This is undoubtedly the most effective solution to an ongoing issue. Again, it provides you confidence by saying the most effective. Well, you can also use colloquial language, an informal language, or a conversational speech used to make the speaker seem relaxed and relatable. So it depends on what kind of audience you have. But if you're going to have a student, if you're going to have teenagers or youth, it's better for you to include colloquial language for them to relate and to make it more relaxing. This plan sounds like a piece of cake to implement. So why a piece of cake to implement? Because it's just part of a plan that we can implement. Now, allusion. Allusion and hyperbole are also part of figurative language. Allusion pertains to a reference of a person, place, or event used to evoke associated or create an association. Example, his struggle was her Achilles heel, a weakness that she could not overcome. So why this allusion? Because if you're going to talk about Achilles, Achilles is known to be a mighty warrior in the Greek mythology, but his weakness is his heel because it was not deep in the river of Styx by his mother. That's why it is the weakness of everyone, the Achilles heel. Now, next, we have hyperbole, the use of exaggerated statement or claims to emphasize a point or evoke a strong emotion. I've told you a million times why this proposal won't work. That million times is an exaggerated statement. Now, next we have the structure of a speech. A speech is typically follows a structure or a format. To effectively convey the main message, support it with evidence and reasoning while effectively engaging the audience. So while variation exists based on the type of speech and speaker's preference, most speeches will include the following three parts. So take note of this. For the introduction, you have to have a welcoming start. A welcome pertains to the beginning with a welcome or address to the audience or acknowledgement of the context of occasion. If it is a birthday, a graduation, a wedding, or a funeral, you have to mention it prior to the start of your speech. Now, a hook is a very important one because a hook pertains to your grabber sentence, how you can get the attention of the audience and arouse interest through a compelling stories, example, quote, question, or statement. You can start with a quotation. You can start with a very alarming news. You can start with a song. You can start with a question. Everything that you can make to get your audience attention. Then you should also end up with your main point, the thesis statement. Make the speaker point of view, purpose, or argument clear and establish the topic's importance, the relevance to the audience. So next would be the body paragraph. It will take you three arguments. Why? Because it includes the organization, that each paragraph focus on 3 to 4 key points that support a thesis statement. And this build upon the argument or discussion in a logical manner. Your points that was outlined in the topic or the lead sentence, and your supporting details and evidences, just like what was presented earlier. It can be in a form of real life stories, facts, statistics, expert opinion, and anecdote. And for you to have a coherence, there should be a transition devices or transition sentence. It is a smooth flow of connecting one paragraph to the next to maintain the flow of the speech. And lastly, we have the conclusion. So remember, the three structured essay or part of your speech would be introduction, body, and conclusion. So for the conclusion, you have the summary. There's no need for you to repeat everything. It's only a recap of the key points that you mentioned in your body of the speech. Then you will restate the thesis, reiterate the main idea, emphasize its significance, call to action, sometimes a request that the audience undertake a particular changes or action, and lastly, end up with something remarkable, your closing remarks that leaves a lasting impression, whether through a powerful quote, a call to action, or a thought-provoking statement. So here's the example. Okay. Good morning, fellow students. I hope you're all surviving a daily grind of assignments, tests, and classic struggle of trying to sway awake during class. So that's the welcome. This will talk about surviving the daily grind of assignment, tests, and classic struggle. It's the life of a student. Then what's your hook? How do you get their attention? Example would be, today I've got something on my mind that affects each and every one of us. Imagine this. You're in the middle of a challenging English essay. Your palms are sweating, and the second on the clock are ticking away faster that you can scribble down your paragraph. Suddenly, you feel the buzz of your phone in your pocket from that miraculous AI powered study app you stumbled upon last night, promising you have all the answers. Tempting, right? But here's the catch, it's not ethical, it's not fair, and it's certainly not the way any of us should be approaching our education. So, here, the challenge. And the argument that even you can use AI, it's not unethical. Now, what's the point of the entire essay? So, this is where we have the thesis statement. Today, I stand before you not as a tech skeptic, but as a high school student who believes in the power of technology. When used responsibly, artificial intelligence is an incredible tool that can either propel us forward in our academic journeys or drag us into a dangerous territory of academic dishonesty. The choice we make about how we use AI matter, not just for our grades, but for our integrity. Using AI responsibly is not just a choice, but a responsibility we owe to ourselves and our academic community. So here, it is expected that we can use AI, but it should be in a responsibility because it will end up with an academic dishonesty. Now, what are the points provided? Number one, artificial intelligence has potential in revolutionize education, offering personalized learning experience tailored to our unique needs and challenges. So what's the evidence provided? According to a recent study published in Tech Expert Neil Tran, adaptive learning platforms powered by AI can identify individual student strength and weakness, providing target support. One success story is Borsell High School, where the integration of AI-driven learning system lead to 20% increase in students' overall academic performance. Imagine an AI tutor that recognizes your specific learning difficulties that offers customized exercise to improve your skills. This sounds like an absolute lifesaver. But as we embrace the positive potential of AI, we must also acknowledge the ethical pitfalls that come within. So that's the transition part. The but that you don't discuss right away the disadvantage, but you connect it from positive to something that we have to look for. Point number two, there is a slippery slope. It's an exaggerated, devastating event of academic dishonesty that arise when we misuse AI for personal gain, considering the recent surge of AI-powered apps designed to help students cheat during the exam by providing an instant answer. So what's the evidence of that cheating during that exam? A recent survey conducted by Think Unlimited revealed a concerning 25% increase in students using AI-powered app to cheat during exam over the past 2 years. This jeopardized not only their academic integrity but also fairness of our educational system. Psychologist Sasha Dubus also emphasized the detrimental long-term effect of academic dishonesty on students' critical thinking, skills, and ethical decision-making. And this brings us to a critical realizations that why AI can be a powerful ally in our academic journey, its misuse possesses a threat to a very foundation of our education. And for the last one, our conclusion. We will repeat the highlights by saying, in this transformative landscape, it is crucial to understand AI's potential for positive impact as well as the ethical challenges it possessed. It can enhance our learning experience through personalized support and adaptive learning platforms, but the slippery slope of academic dishonesty can also lead us by making poor decision if we don't use it responsibility. Now, restate your thesis that you provided in your introduction. Upholding honesty and fairness must be at the forefront of our mind as we navigate this new frontier. Our choices in how we integrate technology into our studies matter, not just for our grades, but also for our character, our sense of integrity, and the values we need to carry beyond the classroom. In the words of Albert Einstein, it has become appallingly clear that our technology has surpassed our humanity. The call to action is we want to defy this notion as we live this assembly today. Let's commit to being responsible stewards of technology. Let's embrace AI as a tool for empowerment, personal growth, and for betterment of our collective learning experience. And let's resist the allure of shortcuts and quick fixes that compromise our integrity. What a beautiful speech about the use of AI. It's very contextualized, it's very informative. And to end this, remember that speeches are more than just words. They're tools that can shape opinions, inspire action, and leave lasting impressions. Because most speeches have been carefully crafted to reflect a particular concept or context, achieve a purpose, and persuade or inform a specific audience. As part of this unit, will be both analyzing and creating speeches. So as you encounter different speeches in the future, take a moment to peel back the layers, unveil the techniques used to shape language and structure, and appreciate the artistry behind the spoken words. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.